501. Madam Clerk, are you ready?
Hey, Morgan, you ready?
You ready? Call this meeting in order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker? Commissioner Decker? Densberger?
Here.
Jeffers?
Here.
Call?
Here.
Mayor Migas?
Here.
All present, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. This, of course, is a working session to discuss energy efficiencies and Washington Street striping. No official business will be taken. I'll turn it over to Ty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This evening we have two items. One is energy efficiencies, and this was something that's a holdover from a previous meeting. But we felt that it was so important, some of the great work that Robert and his team have done with energy efficiency throughout the city, both in public areas and then also in some of the buildings. And then the other item is Washington Street striping, and this is an outgrowth of our Four Corner study that was completed by the Midwest engineering team here about a year ago. And this is kind of the first opportunity to employ some of the recommendations from that study, and we'll get to that item next. So first, I'd like to start off with yielding the floor to Mr. Cole. Robert?
Thank you. Commissioners and Mayor. Commissioner Decker, I appreciate you. One kind of an update on where we're at with energy efficiency and the lighting. So this kind of started many, many years ago. I think we're in our second cycle as far as replacing lighting. So some of this is very good information, and I'll kind of burn through the PowerPoint, and if anybody has any questions, please stop me along the way. So basically, we started this back in 2007, was kind of an opportunity with deregulation. The Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity had put together some programs for incentives to reduce the actual energy for all city buildings and businesses and residents. So we took an opportunity. This was our first project. We actually looked at all of our public safety buildings, and we converted them at that time from the old T12, the bigger bulbs, to the T8. With that, they went from like a magnetic ballast to an electronic ballast, so the efficiency was much better at the time. But it just kind of tells you the tale from 2007. I kind of laughed as I put this PowerPoint together. It's like taking a trip down memory lane. But anyway, these are the projects going from just about every year to date. So this particular project, the total project cost was $29,000. We got a DCO incentive at the time for $20,000, which was really good. City portion was 84. Simple payback was 2 years and a reduction of 41,000 kilowatt hours saved. So that was a pretty good project. The following year, we done East Side Center, and that included some other wall packs and some other exterior lighting throughout the other city buildings like City Hall and some Riverfront Park and just some other areas. But this one was a great project where the total project was a little over $121,000, and we got a grant from the Illinois Community Foundation at the time for $80,000. So that was a very 3-year simple payback, 120,000 kilowatt hours reduced, so an annual savings of 14. So we moved on to 2009. And this was all of the lighting for all the public works. That was interior and all of the other buildings outside of it. So that project, again, was about $40,000. We got a grant and the incentive. So this one we actually kind of double dipped on, which was great because the simple payback on that was 7.5 months. So an annual energy saving of $6,000. So had a 50,000 kilowatt hour reduction. The following year, we kind of went to public safety, back to public safety. This time we looked at the exterior. And that included some wall packs and some other areas like our maintenance shop, just whatever we could kind of put together with this project. Some of the pictures, it kind of shows kind of before and afters, which was night and day. This one was especially important because the police department had got a grant through Homeland Security that actually paid for the cameras for the exterior of the police station. And quite frankly, the cameras were state-of-the-art at that time in 2010, 2009. But what the problem was that at night especially, you couldn't tell because of the high-pressure sodium, that orange emitting light, you couldn't tell if the car was purple or blue or red or, so kind of getting that five, that Kelvin, which is the color, kind of get that to the natural light, you could then begin to see colors and a lot of other definitive images. So, but back to this, this project was 32. We got the spring incentive on this one, which was really good. So our portion was 5,600, and back to that 7.5 months payback, and an annual energy savings about 8,000 a year. Moving on to 2011, this one was radiant heaters for all of the fire engine bays. Another great project that they really, because the energy, the electricity in itself was huge for those buildings. And I say is because the engine bays, they heated the air. And there's a lot of, cubic yards of air in a garage like that. With the infrared and the radiant, it kind of heats the system. So it's just a different form of heating. I think the fire department loves them as far as pulling in,
The black walls are warmer. So in the old type, you would open the door, the heat would go
All
out,
the air
5
would-
minutes later, it'd be warming up again.
Exactly.
These, you can open the door and feel that, but as soon as the door closes, it's warm. There's a huge difference.
So as we talked about, like heating that system. So that was another great project where the cost on that was 22,000. The DCO incentive was a little over 19. Our portion was 2,800 on that at a 3.5 month payback. I mean, that was big because we were actually able to capture the gas savings and the electrical savings. So great project. Moving on to 2012, we looked at all the exterior lighting. That's called parking lot, roadways, wall packs, sidewalks for East Side Center. That included some other areas too, like festival wall packs and some other areas. But that total project was 122,000. We got a little over 100,000 from DCO on that portion, which was great. Our city portion was a little over 21,000, 6.5 month payback. The reduction on that project was huge. And I think now that we're in the second cycle of looking at East Side. We just got done with East Side Drive, but we're looking at the parking lot now. And believe me, the incentive isn't as great just because of the simple fact we already reduced it by half, well over half the first cycle. Now we're going back, and even though we can still achieve 50% reduction, the incentive just isn't there because the usage, is just less on that second cycle. But this one was a great project, 122,000. The paybacks, 304,000 kilowatt hours saved is a lot of energy. 2013, this was a good one. A lot of the floats had already been converted to LED, and we didn't capture as much as we'd like because I think the program was already up and going, but we replaced 18,000 C7s, which is more for the displays and stuff like that, through DCO incentives. So the total cost on that was 34.5. We got a little over 20,000 in incentives. Our portion was a simple payback of one season at 170,000 kilowatt hour reduced. That was a very significant project for the festival. And then we took a couple year break and kind of, a lot of this money that people don't know, and that is, it's through the electrical aggregation funding, we kind of use and save that money for programs like this. So we waited a couple years, and in 2016, we'd done the the HVAC upgrade to East Side Center, which was a big project. For ones that don't know, there was 4 hang-down units in the gym. They were constantly getting bombarded by basketballs and footballs, and they were a pain. You had to rent a scissor lift to get it there. You had to drive it around. It was just, it was very time costly and just costly just for rentals. But This project went well. We actually put 2 air handler units on the ground, used the windows as our return and our supply airs. The energy reduction was 44%, and a simple payback of 5 years. But I think what it is, as far as the, it's so efficient with these air handlers now. I think it's fresh. It's not like stagnant in the gym anymore. It's just it's night and day in there. But that was that project. We moved on to 2017. We done the actual gym. Now, this had been twice that we actually done that. We went from metal halides originally to T8 or T5s, and this time we went from T5s, high bays, to the LED. So that was the last year for the DCO incentive. So, and the incentive was kind of ramping down because Ameren was taking it over. So total project cost on that was 22. We got a little over 7 on that. It was a little higher amount for the city's portion, but it was still a payback of 1.2 years. So still a good project. And we also done some street lighting for Bass Pro Drive, Riverside Drive, and Conference Rooms or Conference Center Drive, where we replaced all the HIDs to LED. That project was a little over 17. We got the DCO incentive. I think there was like a bonus on that one where we were able to get a little more money out of that, but the city portion ended up being $2,700 and back to this 3-month payback. And then this year, like I mentioned earlier, we done East Side Drive. So we kind of breaking it up. We replaced 24 induction fixtures. That was kind of that first cycle. Now we're down, converting all the induction to LED. But that project was a little over $10,000. The incentive, again, wasn't great, but still, it was under that 5-year simple payback, the 3.5 or 3.4 year payback. And our latest is going to be downtown here with all of the decorative poles throughout the levee district. We're replacing them. They were HID to LED. We're going to do all that in-house. Most of these projects we did all in-house. But for this particular project, all of the actual light bulbs and all that were $21,000. Ameren said that it didn't qualify. I think that they would love nothing more than having this on their portfolio, so I think they're going to find a way to incentivize this project. But the energy reduction was 81%, and the annual energy savings, $33,000. I mean, a lot. Back to the simple payback of 8 months. So, any questions so far? No? Okay.
Real quick, if I could jump in.
Yeah.
A lot of this is energy efficiency focused, but I'll point out that this is also better lighting. That the cast, and I think the one
Yeah, the
picture with
pictures
East
show
Side
it.
Center was very telling, that the spread, the naturalness of the light, how well it lights up the environment is really a superior product. And so it's very exciting to see this, not only from an energy efficiency standpoint, but you think about public safety, better lighting, better, more natural cast, like Robert mentioned about the cameras. Anytime you have a camera in use, you have a much better, clearer picture of what's going on, and I think that's a benefit to everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Ty. And as you can see, the top one was the old lighting, and this is what we're proposing right now, which is all LED. And you kind of see what Ty's kind of talking about, that safety feature is, all these poles have these reflectors in them. You can kind of see this dark spot in between here, where you don't see it as much with the LED conversion. We're using everything with the pole, the same reflector kits. All we're literally doing is taking out the HID bulb, taking out the transformer or the ballast, and wiring them direct, and then screwing in an LED bulb. I mean, it's as simple as that. But you can, like what Ty had said, get a little more equal, a little safer lighting, a nicer spread, so.
I have a question, Robert.
Yep.
You mentioned the energy savings, but really, are we not also seeing maintenance expense drop as well?
Absolutely.
I mean, when you talk about the life of these lights versus the lights they replace, they have years versus multi-years versus months or short term.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of started that evolution back in '07, because I think what we found is we were spending so much time on parking lot lighting. And just the transformers, the cost of the bulbs, everything was up. The amount of heat that it generated was huge. So that was kind of the start of that, just because of the simple fact we needed to do something to get a little more longevity out of this lighting
I mean,
systems.
you take the ballast out and you just run straight 110, that just makes it so much direct and easy to manage and maintain and so
Right.
forth.
Yeah, and the actual transformer is actually built into the LED
Yes.
bulb itself. So they are, we went through a selection, we went out for bids, when we finally selected the vendor, and we couldn't be happier. As far as the lumen output on these, which I know I'm getting a little deeper into it, but it's just a superior product, and we're really excited about it. 5-year warranty. The maintenance will be hopefully non-existent, nothing like with lasers. Some of the, the local electrical service contractors will probably be, not liking it too much, just because of the simple fact that, it lasts. So we're very excited about about that project. One of the things too that Ameren had said, and that is, we're looking at all of the other areas. We've done all like the high bays as far as the 4-foot, like this lighting. We've already done the higher bays areas. We converted them with what they call an instant incentive through Ameren. Ameren came back to me last week and said basically is all of those 4-foot linear tubes that we've been buying, they were roughly around $4.50 a piece. Ameren is looking at trying to up the ante to try to get more people to start replacing this. They're looking at, and we're looking at buying 1,200, and I think they're at $2 a bulb now, and they have a $2 rebate, additional rebate on it. So that costs, at the end of the day, it costs the city nothing for these linear tubes. So we're moving forward on that. I think 1,200 will take care of all the other offices, closets, all of the other areas with all of our city buildings. So we are looking forward to that.
Robert, with all of our heating and lighting so far, do you have a total, I can't see it real well, so I was trying to jot some down, but just off the top of your head, you know where we are? Because when you and I had lunch, you mentioned a total. I mean, it was enormous. If you take all of the projects together, do you remember what that is?
As far as the energy usage,
Yeah.
it was well over 500,000 kilowatt hours, which was huge. And I think I got a kind of a graph of on the next slide that kind of maybe will help answer.
Well,
some of those
I'm sorry, I
questions.
said that wrong. Convert it into dollars, like how much savings is the city recognized?
It's somewhere right around 500,000.
That's
a
great.
year with our HVC, lighting, and I mean, we've really reduced back in, from 2005, 2006 even. It's about a 45% reduction in our building energy.
That's great.
Yeah, it's really good. So I just wanted to kind of touch, I found that kind of staggering that buildings consume almost half of the world's energy, and the majority is contributed by HVAC and lighting. So that kind of gives you that sense that's like, on a global end of it, how much energy our buildings, need. And I kind of recap, the city obtained over $450,000 in grants and incentives to upgrade our facilities. Using LED lighting for the floats, displays, have saved $80,000 seasonal in the electric cost for the festival since 2013. That's big. The city has replaced over 50% of the office lighting with LED using the instant incentive through Ameren, kind of what I mentioned earlier. And then the future projects will continue through Ameren, but eventually they'll be phased out and all of them will expire. Probably in the next, they're thinking maybe 3 to 5 years, but what we're seeing, and Public Works has done great as far as taking opportunities for the VFDs and some other incentives through the utility too. So I want to make sure that they get, that was some of the things that happens behind the scenes, but they have really reduced the energy in some of them plants and the treatments and the processes. So, but eventually they're going to end. We all pay for that under a rider every month through your Ameren bill. It clearly states on there it's a rider. Eventually that rider will expire, and you'll save a little money on your electric bill. But hold on a minute. I kind of wanted to do, our power supplier sends kind of report cards occasionally to us quarterly to see where the city's doing as far as our procurement and how we're doing as far as our usages, and we're constantly monitoring that. But this one was, I just got this today, and this kind of tells the tale. I don't know if everyone can see, but that gray, that lower area here is what we actually use. And the line, the dotted line is, I think it's previous year. And the green, the lighter green is what what we procured. So it tells you this is what we have used in the past, this is what we've procuring. This was last year's. This is kind of on peak and off peak, which is, summertime and regular. But as you can see, we are really, really down this past year. I mean, you can see we're down, I think some are almost 20% reduction in off peak. I mean, which is huge. So I think as we start talking about whether it be the LED lighting, the HVAC improvements, or the VFDs or other processes that we've upgraded and done a lot of controlling and stuff like that is really showing here that the reductions are real. I mean, they're real, and they're every day. We just keep creeping down our usages, and it's a good thing. So then we go into what's next. So some of the things we're looking at, is converting everything to LED, like the can lights in here. We already got the conversions for them. So we're going to go through and try to expand everything that we can and convert it to LED. Automation is kind of key with a lot of this. A lot of our HVAC systems are on automation, no different than what you'd be for as far as your water controlling and other things. So we'd like to expand that and as an example would be like, water fountains. When we're closed, why should we continue to cool the water? And then we'll just shut them down until maybe an hour or so before, we open, let them ramp back up. And in the continuance of replacing a lot of those older, inefficient HVAC units throughout the city, which we're somewhere right around 40% we still have out there. So we still have a lot to go. Ones that know in the environmental end of it, R22 is a refrigerant. Most of you probably have it in your system at home. It's being phased out, and quite frankly, it's getting very, very expensive to purchase now. So we're thinking as we're moving forward with the replacement of these new units, we're going with a more environmental friendly refrigerant along with it. So a reduced cost with that. So that is really the end. If nobody has any questions in regards to the PowerPoint.
Can we get a copy of the PowerPoint, Robert?
Absolutely.
One more thing. You mentioned the east side parking lot. I was there a few weeks ago. The marching band practiced there at night, and as I was leaving, I noticed how difficult it was to see the lines, which told me, hey, we need to restripe this lot again. However, hearing you speak, I bet the lighting would have a lot to do with that as well.
It's dark.
Yeah.
It's dark there, and I think we looked even in the last upgrade that they were laid out so far apart that probably the original lighting didn't even meet the minimum.
Right.
And that's kind of it's tough because, we're about incentives. We're about trying to reduce and trying to get as much money with grants and others. I mean, a lot of this stuff, I don't think if we wouldn't have had a grant or something else tied to it, we probably wouldn't have got it done. I mean, there was other priorities, and we understood that, but when we could start coming, and commissioners, believe me, I thank all of you, because each one of you, supported, projects like these. So, when you talk about simple paybacks and stuff like that, but I think what we've talked about, I've had engineers out on the east side. I think we got the right fixtures now. The incentive isn't going to be as good from where we're at, but I think what we're going to find is a better quality of spread. I mean, as Ty talked about with LEDs, with the you know, the reflectors, the kind of that spread, you know, is amazing now. With engineering, there's specific fixtures for like roadways that really concentrate the light where it needs to go and no wasted light. That's why a lot of residents don't like the new street lights in front of their house, because it used to light up their backyard and side yard and everything, and now it really just lights the street up. So I think with technology's really moved, and, you know, this lighting's exciting, and it really is super, super efficient. So I think as we move through this, and I've talked to Doug about it, I think the engineering's done now is trying to find, okay, where does the funding come from? Because at least for this year, we spent all of our electrical aggregation money that we get on other projects, like this downtown project and some others. So we're kind of tapped. Now he can wait until next year, or maybe we can find another funding. But the incentive isn't, I mean, the reduction's still there, but the incentive isn't really great. Because we're gonna actually put more lumens to light it up, mostly around the front. I think it's always been kind of dark around East Side's entrance. I know we've had some issues in the past, correct, Mayor?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're gonna add some additional lighting, so that incentive may not, it's not gonna be as good.
Right. Make it
It still
safer.
needs to be done on the safety end of it.
Yeah, to make it safer, that's good.
Thank you very much. Other questions?
I'm really impressed. I know, checking the lighting, they can pack so many lumens now in a LED package, 40s, 50s, 60,000 plus lumens in a street light, or a parking lot light, or a outdoor light. And the energy use, of course, is proportionally low. But you can, that does raise a question. I know Doug's not here, but as far as the upgrades to the fields themselves, LED, is that part of your plan, Robert, or?
You know, we're not there yet. I'll tell you the price.
They're still
and-
working on that. I know
Yeah,
it's
the
big ones.
payback is 25, 30 years. I mean, I'll speak for Doug, because we looked into it a number of years ago. We're constantly reevaluating it. But, Doug's done a great job as far as scheduling, the fields and when people are playing. So the amount of hours on that field, it's just, again, it's for that kind of cost. It just isn't there yet.
And we play a lot of day ball like Wrigley used to be, so.
Right, and Doug done a great job as far as scheduling that, trying to get as many games in during the light, when it's sun's out, so,
Yeah, thank you.
anyway.
Hey, I just want to commend you,
Yep,
honestly, on the
thank you.
job you guys have done, and these guys sitting on this council for moving forward some of these projects in the years past. I
Well,
think it's made a big difference, and appreciate you giving the presentation. I think it's good for the public to know. Oftentimes we get bashed for spending too much money, and it's always good to have a positive story to show them where we've saved tax dollars.
You've done a good job, Robert.
Yeah, thank you.
you very much.
Yep.
Ty, continue on, please. Right on time.
Thank you. We're going to transition now
Yes,
into
Bob.
another. We
Question
got
for
a
Bob?
comment here.
I just wondered if I could make a comment too, and, definitely give my round of applause to Robert and all the things he's done in the years, and I think this was the most enjoyable presentation I've ever been to here at the council meeting, and I love it all. Looks good, works well. My only comment would be, just think how much farther ahead we would be too if we had actually worked hard on a no idling program in the city. All the incredible numbers of gallons of gas we could have saved. And it's something that I sure would encourage council to look at, maybe even have Robert look at it, because he's the guru, that's for sure. But there's a lot of money to be saved there if we just would try and get a handle on what we're doing on it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Carry on, Ty, please.
Thank you. So we're making a transition here to the Washington Street restriping. As I mentioned earlier, this is an outgrowth of our Four Corners study that was conducted with the team at Midwest Engineering. We have Courtney Allen and Rob Culp with us here tonight to talk about that. And we have kind of the first opportunity in front of us. We've been working with the team over at Public Works, Dennis and Rick are here, with the resurfacing of that segment of West Washington between the railroad tracks and Main Street. And as we look at it, this is an opportunity to employ some of the recommendations from that study, but really looking a little beyond that. And so we're looking at all the way from the Levy District down to I-74, that whole Washington Street corridor. And I believe that the plan that they put together really creates a much more desirable situation in that whole stretch. While initially that study looked at parking and other items, it also looked at traffic flow. And certainly there's some real safety issues in that corridor right now, the way that it's laid out. And so they're going to talk about the layout that would be proposed. We think it improves a lot of efficiencies. It's essentially, not to say a dirty phrase here, but a road diet. But I think that it really has some positive benefits throughout the corridor. And I will mention that this proposal does not include a roundabout for any of you that are very interested in that. This leaves the intersection of Springfield Road as it is. But we do think it improves a lot of different areas. So with that, I'll let Courtney and Rob have the floor.
Okay, thank you. So Ty kind of went through the introduction, so I was going to start with, over the last year, we had the wind farm come through and utilize the section of Washington Street. They were unloading at the railroad, and they were using their heavy equipment. So with that, the city had the funds and was going to resurface Washington Street. So there we have the funds, and they were going to resurface, even to the point where we got bids, and then as we saw, the staff saw this as the opportunity to answer some of the business owner needs, which, if you'll recall, we did the study. And from that study, we had kind of summarized that the core values we identified would be pedestrian transit and vehicular safety, walkability, and economic sustainability. In those, kind of to bring those core values to the forefront, the concepts that were developed were kind of the best standards of practice. So we had parking lot reconstructions, we had sidewalk widening, curb and gutter reconstruction, a lot of intersection reconstructions, adding green space, widening sidewalks, the intersection improvements at Anna Street and Elmira Street. Again, I say the best standards of practice, and of course, a lot of that comes with this. This is a big ticket item. So when we go take a step back, and with this resurfacing section, we looked at that and said, hey, is this an opportunity to just do a minimal extension of the resurfacing and look at restriping this with a nominal cost increase and minimal impacts, and yet meet these core values and meet these goals and needs of these business owners. So with that, we looked at restriping from Spinder all the way to I-74 with the interchange. The needs that this does address, specifically from the study that the public meeting that was brought up, reducing Washington from 2 lanes with a bidirectional turn lane, shared or exclusive turn lanes. Does this count? I don't know if you guys can see this. Exclusive turn lanes on either side of Main Street at Washington Street. Exclusive turn lanes on Washington Street, right turn lanes onto Washington Street. Am I saying that right?
On the
No.
Main Street, from Washington Street.
Exclusive,
Right, turn lanes from Washington Street onto Main Street.
yes.
Yeah, so
Whereas
think
right now
about
they're
rush hour,
shared.
yeah.
Yeah, and with their shared, there's a high volume of right turners and very few people who want to go through the intersection. And with that, one person who wants to go through, they block the volume of right turners, thereby backing up the number of vehicles. If you can limit that to right turn vehicles only, those vehicles can continue to turn, not blocking those, that lane up, and clear those people through. What were the other? Another comment was the awkward left into Costco. As you're traveling from Main Street down Washington towards Costco, if you're in that inside through lane, you get stuck in that left turn trap. One of the solutions here is to restripe that such that that can be avoided. And then another one was if you're at Cole Street and you're waiting to turn left, if you're the person behind them and you want to go through and you're waiting, then you don't get into that trap. So part of that is the overall reduction from the 4-lane to a 3-lane. The 4 lanes generally are 4 10-foot lanes. That's the average section of the roadway. There are some sections that are down to 9.5-foot lanes. Then the proposed roadway section, which is shown at the bottom here, if you can see it, would be 2 10-foot or 2 11-foot through lanes and a 12-foot center turn lane. Then the additional width that's not taken up by those 3 lanes would be a 3-foot buffer on either side. That buffer gives us some space between the vehicles and the pedestrians. That increases that walkability, that comfort with the drivers, the safety. We have a lot of light poles that are on the side of the road. Even when we looked at the crash analysis, there were a lot of impacts with vehicles and stationary objects. So just by restriping alone, no major improvements, no curb and gutter reconstruction, that's something we can solve. So looking at the improvements, beginning at Spinder and just working our way through the project. At Spinder Drive, we have reconfigured the intersection to a single through lane coming from the Levy District, and an exclusive right turn lane into Costco, exclusive right turn lane around Chick-fil-A, and a single through lane going further towards Peoria. One of the things this solves is the left turn trap mentioned earlier. And as you'll see from the next slide, I'll show you that it might appear that we're creating a right turn trap, but you'll see from the next slide that we're not. And then what this helps also is there appear to be a high volume of right turners into the Levy District, which I know is me because I turn there a lot. So that'll help that maneuver, get people in and out. Yeah, into Spinner. And then, so now looking between Spinder and Main Street around the railroad. Previously, we had talked about a mid-block mid-block crossing. Definitely, we had some curb and gutter reconstruction with some green space, but here, if we restripe to the 3-lane section, we do show some parking in this section. This is the only section where we show on-street parking, and it's more a factor of the space is available than, unfortunately, a factor of the parking is needed. But this is where we can fit it in. And as you can see here, on the Main Street side of the tracks, you have a single lane heading towards Spinder, and then it opens up with a right lane after the tracks, and that would be a exclusive right lane. So you would have the right lane into the, what I would call the Chick-fil-A right in, right out entrance. You can turn right there, or then you can turn right at the Spinder, and that whole lane could be signed accordingly so that it's right turn only. The other issue this solves here is the bidirectional lane that is currently there on Washington that serves the shopping center, the Goodwill, and the furniture, not Furniture Row, Ashley Furniture, yeah. That bidirectional turn lane that's there now is very narrow. It's like probably 10 foot. So this would give a much more comfortable turn lane. People could sit more safely and more comfortably there.
I'm not sure it's even striped that way at the moment. It's technically not a bidirectional
Yeah.
left turn. I mean, people use it as such, but it's not,
It's not striped that way.
not wide enough, right?
No, it's not. It's, right now it's crosshatched.
Yeah.
And then, on this one, you can see the exclusive right turn lane for Main Street, from Washington to Main Street, began in the previous slide, and now so it will be a long one. And so at the Main Street intersection, the biggest changes would be the exclusive right turn lanes on Washington for Main Street. And in order to get those, that would be reducing the through lanes. Again, there's no curb and gutter, no sidewalk, major reconstructions proposed. That would be just the resurfacing from the railroad to Main Street.
In this dedicated right turn lane on eastbound Washington onto Main Street, will actually tie in very nicely. IDOT let us in on some designs that they're working on for the Cedar Street extension that's going to happen here in about 3 years. They have plans to extend that right on-ramp all the way back to Main Street. So this dedicated right turn lane could tie very nicely into that and offer a good opportunity for traffic to filter into Main Street better.
In the next section, we kind of just clean it up a bit. From Cole Street to Main Street, as you're heading towards Main Street, I would say you kind of have to, existing, I feel like maybe you, as the people are turning and whatnot, you have to watch where people are turning and maybe shift traffic somewhat. Whereas here, there's the dedicated left turn, so you have a little more opportunity to just stay in your lane. And that theme, I guess, kind of continues from 74 all the way to Spinder in both directions. There's not so much of a need to shift lanes in both directions. We do have a need probably to adjust the signal timings here at Anna Street. In this section, the biggest benefit we would probably see here is that buffer from the light poles, the buffer for the pedestrians. And here at Springfield intersection, again, we're reducing that through lane, at least in what I would call the eastbound direction towards I-74. In the westbound direction towards Main Street, it's already an exclusive left and a single through. So we are actually not changing anything in that direction. A huge improvement in front of the Associated Bank building, or what was the Associated Bank building, is, if you can tell from that aerial, which it might be too light to tell, but we probably increased that right turn lane from a 9.5-foot lane to like a 12-foot lane. So that drastically improves the width of that lane there. This section of Washington around the funeral homes probably is the most comfortable section, at least width-wise, and so it's probably going to see the least improvement. And then as we transition towards I-74, the bend, as I like to refer to it, is probably the narrowest section. So that will see a huge improvement with the 3-lane section. I think that will see a huge traffic calming effect, especially for people coming towards Main Street, and kind of just drag racing around that curve. If they're coming down in a single lane, they have to reduce. They're coming from 2 lanes to 1 lanes. So our next step is to coordinate with IDOT. Since we are proposing lane changes at the IDOT intersection, they are requesting that we complete an IDS. We kind of consider this an IDS light, since we are only dealing with lane changes and striping and not geometrics such as radius changes, island changes, moving the mast arms. One of the things that they did also share with us was that they had gone through last year and redid some signal coordination along Main Street, and redid the signal timings. And with that, they reduced the green times on Washington Street. And because of that, they have tied our hands a bit, and we can't change that green time. We are stuck to that green time because the signal timings along Main Street are all coordinated. So with that, when we go to analyze this, we might find that compared to our study previously, that the backups or the delays might be worse than we had previously studied. That is one concern we have.
That's a big concern, to be honest with you.
It is.
The other thing that might head us up for is, anytime you're repaving a specific area, and this will be related whether we do the restriping throughout the corridor, is coming up to the intersection there. If you look at where the pavement ends, the really poor condition pavement, it goes all the way up to the two medians there on the west side of Main Street. And I'm going to bet, they've indicated that likely that becomes a part of our deal to replace because they're not ADA compliant. So that might be something that's another cost factor to take a look at, but I think that gets bore out to some extent in that IDS. But we have had some preliminary conversations with IDOT. We know that there are some pretty significant road projects that are coming up here in the future. They're closing the bridge down. Unfortunately, there are not any traffic counts from when they closed the bridge down in 2005, so all they have is a traffic model at this point to project what we could be looking at. But certainly there's some efficiencies that are happening here at this intersection, that unfettered right turn movement, both onto north and southbound Main Street, is going to improve some of that traffic flow, but there's no doubt that there will be some queuing, some stacking that will happen. And I think that's really what we have to get into. The concept is there. It's getting into kind of the nuts and bolts before we can say, yeah, this is going to work, or no, this has got some challenges.
Just a question, that the signage, I know we've talked before in the studies, in the signage, not just the restriping, but the signage from Washington Street to the Springfield Road, what I would call the extension, to gear traffic that way versus going to the old four corners, the current four corners, to try and split some of that off traffic that direction. That might save some backup at the four corners. I'm sure that's part of your study. So is that also part of this restriping to maybe add some signage that would give motorists, people local know that, but as far as those that are here and looking to find their way around if you go down the Main and Camp, that interchange, there's how many state routes and US routes there? About 10?
Number.
That's an over-exaggeration, but there's quite a few there.
Yeah. I think this is a very good idea. I'm not sure that we had gotten to that point where we were focusing on the signage, but certainly that would augment that, that push to try to get people to Springfield Road. To be honest, one of the key design features of the initial plan was that reconfiguration of the intersection in Springfield and Washington, but certainly you could achieve some of that redirection with some signage to encourage folks, and we can certainly take a look at including that into the project.
In a broader sense, if you notice through it, you've got the single lane that begins at the interchange, at Washington Street interchange, takes you all the way to the levee district. So that'll simplify a driver that just gets in a lane and drives. You don't have actually these weaving movements that are inherently unsafe. The majority of this is striping an old section of pavement. That's probably somewhere in the MFT plans or street plans is gonna be overlaid somewhere in the future, but probably after we try. What I will say is, if this doesn't work, it's just striping. I don't mean that in a belittle way, like if it doesn't work that people aren't gonna be upset, but if it doesn't work, it is just striping, not a lot of cost to go in and put it back the way it was. It also lets us, the central business, called Central Business District, but the historical Four Corners, this is one of the things that they really liked about this. And this is a very cost-effective way to see, does this help promote business or more on-street, walking pedestrian movements? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. So I guess in the end, when we met with Public Works and Ty, that was kind of what we resolved ourselves to is it's changeable. In the end, if you overlay it the following year, you can restripe it the way it was if it just doesn't appear to be working very well. If we do our traffic study and we find out that the queuing is worse, because right now, believe it or not, it's about the same, if IDOT has not messed with the signals. If it's worse, we're not gonna recommend it without letting them know, Public Works know that it's worse, how bad is it gonna be? So they can make an informed decision as well. There's no reason to go into this knowing that we've created something that's going to be, just a failure from a queuing point of view. And usually that's around rush hour in the morning, more rush hour in the evening and the lunch hour is where, sitting where we sit, that's what we see. It's really lunch and PM that are the worst there. So that was our take. That's why we're sitting here. I don't think this is anything that any business owner there objected to. I don't believe was this. We're not dealing with on-street parking. So I think this was the safest of all things to try. And this $61,000 or $100,000 or whatever that the wind farm folks gave, just gave this idea to expand this and see if we can do something to improve that corridor to that, new urbanistic feel that, everybody is aiming for in these older parts of a community. And if across the river, Peoria's done a really good job of just restriping existing pavement and putting a bike lane out there and, and just trying it to see what it works, because usually it's not on new pavement, it's on older pavement, and they probably have the same thought process. Hey, we can mill it and restripe it, at a later date if it doesn't work. So that helps explain our position anyway.
Rob, one time you had a model for Camp Street that you, as a computer program, that you were able to put the current traffic flow, and then you were to overlay the proposed flow and show how it would, are you able to do that with this so we can see how bad it will become?
Yeah, that would be part of, when I say we, Courtney, would take that data and run those simulations and then, be able to graphically at least, from traffic modeling, show you what those differences are, how big or how small. And truly, it probably depends on how much IDOT has really changed the signal timing there. Anecdotally, sitting there, it doesn't feel like I sit any one approach any longer than the other, but, 10 seconds may make a huge difference and I may not notice that 10 seconds. But it just doesn't feel to me like they've made a change, like you sit at a red light on Main Street and you're like, wow, that changed green quickly. Seems like it takes about the same time it's always taken. But like I said, that could just be me and my lack of awareness of a few seconds.
I understand this is informational tonight. When you'll come back to the council after a certain time and present again? But when's your plan as far as you'd like to have this implemented if it were to go?
We'd be, I think in the spring is when Public Works like to go out and maybe resurface or try and resurface that part of Washington Street. So we think we have till spring. Sometime over winter, come back to you guys, and at least make a presentation, I say January, February-ish.
For a final decision?
Yeah,
I
and
think
see what the traffic is and let you make a better informed decision.
Yeah, the next step really is this IDS piece. That's really the investigation. The concept is there. It's, getting into the weeds, so to speak, with that design study. And IDOT's going to have to take a look at that as well, too. So we certainly welcome your feedback tonight as well as into the next few weeks. Likely, I'll ask Rob and Courtney to come back with a proposal for an IDS that you all can take a look at and say, yeah, we like this or no, we don't. Because timing-wise, if we're looking at a spring letting to get that stretch repaved, we need to go through the IDOT process, and, that's not going to move terribly quickly. It's probably, a 60-day turnaround, 45?
Say 3 months.
Okay, 3 months. 90 days.
Start to finish. By the
Yeah.
time they start, you review and you go back and forth a little bit on ideas and get some resolution. It's
Yeah.
probably 3 months. to be-
So after that IDS, if you all still think it's a good idea and we're okay with it, that we need to have that in place to go, be able to go out for bid with the packet, so. And the restriping can be done, independently, or maybe it's a part of, obviously, it's got to be integrated with resurfacing.
It would be best.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to, but it is just paint.
Other questions from council, please? Anybody in the audience want to make comment on this, please come forward. Not to cut you off, but I want to make sure we quit timely. All right. Is hearing none, seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn this working session, please?
So moved.
Commissioner Denberger, second.
Second.
Commissioner Call, roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
We adjourn. Thank you very much. Very excited. I look forward to the future.
Commissioner Decker,
Here.
Densberger, Jeffers,
Here.
Call,
Here.
Mayor Mingus.
Here.
All present, Your Honor.
Thank you. Please stand for the invocation. You may stand for the pledge.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, thank you for this day we've had here in the city. We thank you for this election day, which concludes here shortly in our country. And we thank you for the freedom we have here in our nation to pause every year, 2 years, 4 years, et cetera, to confirm or choose leadership. And we're appreciative of that we have that freedom that was paid for with a great price. May we always take the privilege of voting seriously and conduct it wisely. We ask your blessing on our meeting tonight. Thank you for watching over our community as we head into a holiday season very soon. Actually, we're there now as we look forward to the parade, to Thanksgiving, to Christmas, the Festival of Lights. A lot of work, and with the time change, the darkness, the season. But we do pray for safety and for those that serve. And we thank you now for this time. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the minutes of the regular meeting held on October 16, 2018, and the minutes of the special meeting for a working session held on October 16, 2018 be approved as printed.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Decker, discussion, roll call.
Commissioner Decker,
Aye.
Densberger.
Aye.
Jeffers.
Aye.
Call.
Aye.
Mayor Mingus.
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you. Communications tonight?
We don't have any communications, Your Honor.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience want to speak to the council on an agenda item, come forward? Saying no one come forward. Commissioner Densberger, consent agenda, please.
Well, Your Honor, I guess that means we have a boring agenda. Nobody wants to talk about it, so let's move on to the consent agenda.
Yes, sir.
Mayor Mingus, Mr. Mayor, I move you to adopt a consent agenda consisting of items numbered 1 through 4 as listed on the agenda for this, 1 through 7 as listed on the agenda for this meeting to be considered by unanimous vote.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call. Discussion, roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker,
Aye.
Densberger.
Aye.
Jeffers.
Aye.
Call.
Aye.
Mayor Mingus.
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
In that case, Mr. Mayor, I move you that items numbered 1 through 7 listed on the consent agenda be hereby approved and adopted. The items numbered 2 through 7, having been read once by their title and having laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection, be adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call. Discussion, roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker,
Aye.
Densberger.
Aye.
Jeffers.
Aye.
Call.
Aye.
Mayor Mingus.
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
And moving on, I have 2 agenda items for this evening, Your Honor. First of all, Resolution Number 1819-088. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, that Resolution Number 1819-088, hereto attached, a resolution approving the annual contribution to the Greater Economic Development Council be approved, and that this Resolution Number 1819-088 be accepted on its first reading, as read by its title, and be laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is a annual contribution to this regional organization. It's, in my view, at least one of our regional responsibilities. I will say I've had some trepidation in the past as to the effectiveness of this organization, but I believe since Mr. Setti has taken over its directorship, I've had several conversations with him. I think that they take a improved regional view and have become more active, responsive, and hopefully will provide a better result.
Other discussion, please. Roll call.
Commissioner Decker,
Aye.
Densberger.
Aye.
Jeffers.
Aye.
Call.
Aye.
Mayor Mingus.
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
My next item, Mr. Mayor, I move you that ordinance number 4419, hereto attached, and ordinance amending Title III, Chapter 3 of the East Peoria City Code to change the number of Class E liquor licenses authorized to be issued within the corporate limits of the city, be read at length by the clerk, and that said ordinance number 4419 be accepted on its first reading and be hereby adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call.
Thank you, Commissioner. Morgan?
Ordinance number 4419, an ordinance amending Title III, Chapter 3 of the East Peoria City Code to change the number of Class C liquor licenses authorized to be issued within the corporate limits of the city. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, that Section 1, Title 3, Chapter 3, Section 1.10 of the East Peoria City Code is hereby amended to read as follows. Additions are indicated by underline, deletions by strikeout. 3-3-1.10, licenses limitation upon number issued. So the health, safety, and welfare of the people of the city shall be protected, and minors shall be prevented from the purchase of alcoholic liquors, and temperance in the consumption of alcoholic liquors shall be fostered and promoted. E, no additional Class C licenses shall be issued under the provisions of the chapter unless the number of such licenses in force at the time shall be less than 2. Provided, however, that upon the surrender and cancellation of an existing license, the local liquor control commission may reissue such license to a person who has purchased the business or premises of the prior licensee. Provided further that in the event of annexation of any territory to the city, which territory there is located, any business or property for which a valid county retail liquor license has been issued and enforced at the date of such annexation, local liquor control commission is empowered to authorize issuance of a new license strictly under the provisions of this code to the person named in the county retail liquor license issued for such business or property, notwithstanding the foregoing limitations upon the number of licenses to be issued. Section 2, this ordinance is hereby ordered to be published in pamphlet form by the East Peoria City Clerk, and said clerk is ordered to keep at least 3 copies hereof available for public inspection in the future in accordance with the Illinois Municipal Code. Section 3, this ordinance is in addition to all other ordinances on the subject and shall be construed therewith, excepting as to that part in direct conflict with any other ordinance. In the event of such conflict, the provisions hereof shall govern. Section 4, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and 10-day period of publication in the manner provided by law.
Thank you, Morgan. This is largely a housekeeping item. From time to time, those that watch us regularly know that we adjust the number of licenses up and down based on need and qualifications.
Other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting, aye, Your Honor.
Thank
That's
you.
all I have for now, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Decker.
A few items tonight, Mayor. First of all, ordinance number 4416. Mr. Mayor, I move you that ordinance number 4416 here to attach an ordinance providing for the vacation of street right-of-way at the end of Anderson Avenue, having been read once by its title and having laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection, be adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Densberger.
Thank you, Mr. Densberger. This is the second reading. We spoke about this. At the end of Anderson Avenue, there's a piece of property that really serves no useful interest for the city, and it is going to the person that has the property next to it. I don't know, is there anything further you'd like to say, Dennis, about it?
No, there's really nothing further there. It's property that we don't need. We're still maintaining a piece to be able to turn around a garbage truck
Yes.
if needed, so therefore we're going to maintain usage of what we need and vacate the rest.
I think it's just important to note that homeowner, she covered the legal costs too.
Yes. Yes, sir.
To have this ordinance drafted.
Other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting, aye, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
Next, Mayor, something we do every year, resolution number 1819-085. Whereas Tazewell County annually provides a grant to help fund the curbside recycling program operated by the city, and whereas the county has offered to provide the grant in the amount of $52,852 for 2019, and whereas the grant will be dispersed under the terms of the intergovernmental agreement between the city and the county, now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, that the mayor is hereby authorized and directed to execute an intergovernmental agreement between the city and the county under such terms and conditions as the mayor in his discretion deems appropriate, providing for the distribution of a curbside recycling grant in the amount of $52,852 from the county to the city. Mr. Mayor, I move you that resolution number 1819-085 be adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call.
Thank you, Commissioner Call. Each year, we receive this grant from the county. I was speaking with Dennis before the meeting, It is a little bit higher than last year. They've come through on some additional funding. I'll let Dennis talk in detail about that as well.
Yeah, this year is a new grant process that they had, and I actually, they didn't have any limitations on what to ask for, so I spent quite a bit of time between me and Rick ourselves working in the office to try to come through how to write exactly what we thought our needs were. We asked for quite a bit more than this. We did receive the full $2,000 allotment that they had available for a pharmaceutical recycling program, which we already have in place, but this helps fund that in getting rid of those medications that are dropped off. So this actually helps the fire department in that aspect. In their piece of it, it's provided $1,000 for the containers to go to community events to be used by Doug and his group as well. And then that's, of course, increased our grant by a little over $6,000 in addition to what we were receiving before. It's going to require a little bit of more paperwork on the backside end of it to be accountable for what we're spending and how we're doing it, and that we're actually making a worthwhile program. I asked for free toters for the entire city for recycling. How else do you want to make a recycling better program? Being able to give the containers away, unfortunately, with the way their grant has been revised, that was not something that they were willing to do to be able to provide funding. So I asked for all kinds of different things in the process of this grant writing to make the program more efficient across the board. This is where they've chosen to have us land, which is better than what we've been getting. So I look at it as a win regardless either way. Would have liked to had some more, of course, but we'll deal with what we've got for now.
It is great that we do that. A long time ago it was started for the purpose of trying to promote recycling, and we appreciate it every year. One thing I guess I took for granted the need to dispose of medicines. I never thought much about it. And I remember when they were putting in the box at Central House, just wondering how much it would be used. And Chief Beck isn't here tonight. I'm sure Chief Knapp could talk in detail about it. But speaking with Chief Beck, it is used a lot. I mean, I think he said at one time they were emptying it twice a week, and when they would empty it, it would be full. So I didn't realize the need for that service. I mean, we all hear about the narcotic issues and things around the area, but I didn't realize the need for disposal. So I'm very happy about that, and happy that the county has helped us defray some of the costs.
Thank you. Other discussion? Good job, too, on getting an increase. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
The President voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And last, Mayor, resolution number 1819-086. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, that resolution number 1819-086 hereto attached, a resolution authorizing the payment of an invoice from Durdle & Sons for brush cleanup during September 2018 cleanup week in the amount of $13,860 be approved, and that this resolution number 1819-086 be accepted on its first reading as read by its title and be laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call.
Thank you, Commissioner Call. Each year, when we do the bulk pickup, we also do the brush pickup, and it was successful this year. This is to pay for that. I'm going to pass it off to Dennis again, but I do want to say our crews are out cutting down a lot of trees right now, which doing so for the purpose of making it safer this winter. So as part of that topic, I guess. Dennis, I'll let you speak to this as well.
We did request multiple bids, however, we only had one bidder. We've discovered that a few of the other people we've used for tree trimming have been absorbed by other vendors in the area. So unfortunately, we requested bids from several vendors and only received one. It still was the same cost per hour that we have been getting. However, of course, competition always makes a better run for us. I'd like to point out that our normal costs seem to be running right around $10,000 per pickup. Keep in mind, this is last year we only did one pickup instead of two. So instead of necessarily costing us $20,000, it cost us a little over $13,000 or almost $14,000, but we only had one pickup instead of two. I know I've kind of been talking a little bit about this in how to improve this to get away from having to do this, whether it's doing it internally on a different week, whether it's simply reserving it for severe storm damage pickup, because we'll have to do that if we have severe winds and things like that that blow these down into our right-of-ways as is. So we're kind of trying to pursue some other options to see what we can do to try to minimize this cost. But as long as it's continued, I mean, we're going to have to absorb that cost somehow, so.
Thank you.
No discussion. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Hi.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting, aye, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Commissioner Jeffers.
I have one item, Mr. Mayor, it's second reading. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, that resolution number 1819-075, hereto attached, a resolution approving amendment to engineering services contract for construction phase of the city's sanitary sewer system upgrade project be hereby approved, and that this resolution number 1819-075, having been read once by its title and having laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection, be adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call.
Thank you, Commissioner Call. This is the, as we stated a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, the engineering services agreement with Farnsworth to oversee and represent the city when we finally get our bid process and the construction phase beginning on our very large capital improvement of our city sewer system. So this is a necessary item. They represent us. I'm hopeful that costs, though it's north of $3 million, that it would be maybe less depending on the overall cost of the project being less, as we hope that it can be with the type of bid structure we have going out here soon, and that we'll see that. But otherwise, this is a needed thing, and they represent us.
Other discussion? Roll call, please. Thank you.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting, aye, Your Honor.
Thank
That's all,
you.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Jeffers. Commissioner Call.
2 items this evening, sir. Resolution number 1819-087. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, the resolution number 1819-087, hereto attached a resolution approving 2018-2019 intergovernmental agreement for mutual aid with Northern Tazewell Fire Protection District be approved, and that this resolution number 1819-087 be accepted on its first reading as read by its title and be laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection.
Second, please. Second. Commissioner Densberger.
Thank you, Commissioner Densberger. This is a one-year, basically, agreement, kind of an extension of an already mature contract we had in place with Northern Tazewell. The difference here, this agreement is in the amount of $74,677, which is a slight increase over last year, but it was budgeted as such in this year's budget. Their board had asked us if we would be interested in doing a one-year agreement with the plans of working on a multi-year agreement moving forward. So we made some great strides, I think, between the two departments, worked very well together over the course of last year. I will point out that under this agreement, under Exhibit A, Section 3, Telecommunication and Dispatch, East Peoria, we obviously had our own dispatch center in the previous years. We no longer have that. So that language has been removed, whereas the city covered that dispatch service. Since it's TC3 now, we felt it was imperative to remove that, which they agreed, of course, to that. So that's about the only two changes. It includes the mutual, or I should say dual dispatch language that we had included in last year. So nothing else has changed.
Thank you. Other discussion? Chief, anything you want to say?
No, we look forward to working with Northern Tazewell's board on the multi-year contract. We've got a number of different details that we're going to be in discussions over, and look forward to working with them on that.
Good job on enhancing the relationship, too. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting, aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, resolution number 1819-089. Whereas recent amendments to the Emergency Telephone System Act 50 ILCS 750 mandate the consolidation of the currently existing 4 911 dispatch centers serving Tazewell County down to 2 dispatch centers, consolidation mandate. And whereas the City Council has previously approved an intergovernmental agreement, the agreement, with Pekin, Washington, Morton, Tazewell County, the Tazewell County Sheriff's Office, and the Tazewell County Emergency Telephone Systems Board, the parties, in accordance with the consolidation mandate. And whereas under the terms of the agreement, the parties agreed to cooperatively to establish an intergovernmental agreement named TC3 for the purpose of providing 911 dispatch services in Tazewell County. And whereas the agreement provides that TC3 is to be governed by a governance board and the daily operations of TC3 are to be managed by an operations committee. And whereas the agreement further provides that the governance board and operations committee are each to be comprised of representatives of municipalities affected by the consolidation mandate. And whereas pursuant to the agreement and the bylaws attached as Exhibit B, thereto, the City of East Peoria has 2 seats on the governance board and 2 seats on the operations committee. And whereas, consistent with the mayor's recommendation, the city desires to appoint Deputy Chief of Police Shannon Swearingen as one of the city's representatives on the TC3 Operations Committee to replace the city's representative position currently held by Chief of Police Dick Anchow. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, the Deputy Chief of Police Shannon Swearingen is hereby appointed as one of the city's representatives on the TC3 Operations Committee. Mr. Mayor, I move you that resolution number 1819-089 be adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Densberger.
Thank you, Commissioner Densberger. Chief has announced his pending retirement, coming up here in, I don't know, February. But who's counting, right, Chief? Anyway, this basically allows for the smooth transition of Deputy Chief Swearingen to take his spot on the Operations Committee.
Other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
That's all I had, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Call. Public comments from the audience regarding a non-agenda item, please come forward. Don, good to see you come forward.
Well, it's that time of the year again when we poison the air, and we are all out there burning leaves like crazy. Over the weekend, of course, I live in a neighborhood where they just burn, and burn. It was so bad, sitting in my house, as you know, houses are not completely sealed, the smoke is literally coming through the cracks. And it's creating a problem in my house. It's just rolling over the top of it. Something fierce. Unfortunately, there's not a lot I can do about that since we allow burning at this time of the year. And the only recourse I had was to vacate my home for about 4 hours and go to somewhere where you were able to breathe. And that is what I had to do. We really need to do something with this, and I know we talked about this. I talk about it every year. But there's no way any citizen should have to leave their home and go somewhere else because the city allows people to contaminate the air. We really need to do something about this. And what's really bad is we have Thanksgiving weekend coming up, and everybody's going to burn like crazy that weekend. So if you have anybody over, you got to lock the houses up. You got to keep everything. If you have any good weather, you can't go outside. It's really bad. Maybe we could just ban it for that 1 week so that we can at least enjoy 1 week of the fall that we can still breathe. But once again, all I'm asking is that somehow, some way, please come up with something, because there's more people out there than me that have the same problem that I do, that don't complain. So I appreciate your time.
Hey, Don, I'm glad you brought it up. I just want to make a couple of quick comments because my neighborhood's no exception, quite honestly. The thing that frustrates me is we do allow it, but there are parameters to the open burning that people do not adhere to. I can't stress this enough. I mean, in my house, it's no different than yours. Have neighbors on Glen that love to burn. Quite honestly, they love to burn all year long in previous years. But at the end of the day, they leave it smoldering throughout the night. The entire neighborhood is caked in smoke, which comes in through your ventilation system, through the cracks, through the windows, anything where there's air seepage, you're gonna have it. I encourage people, be courteous. We do allow it. Your request for that holiday week, I don't know, I mean, legally, we'll look into that. I don't think it's a bad idea. Because I'll be honest with you, my mother-in-law does not visit this time of year for the exact same reasons. The health challenges that you have, she has as well. So it's a shame, in my humble opinion. So maybe that's something we take a look at. I don't know.
So I did have a constructive conversation with one of the neighbors that was burning. And I understand the other side of the story there, because as he said to me, he said, what am I supposed to do with all these leaves? And I said, well, you know, if the city had yard waste pickup, of course, we could get rid of it that way. But once again, he's trying to figure this out. He has a short window of time to deal with it since he works. And that's part of the reason I left, so he could continue to burn. There's no way that I could stop him. But there is also a cost, and some people can't afford that $200 cost to have Waste Management pick up the yard waste. Once again, you know, it's just something that we need to look into, find a way to satisfy everybody somehow. But like I said, at least when I did return home, then the fire had gone out. Evidently, he had started mulching all the leaves into the yard instead of continuing to burn. And I said, they're coming down now. It's going to get really bad, and by Thanksgiving, it's going to be real bad. So whatever you can do, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. You were at my house that day, and it wasn't any better, was it?
No, you're in a bad spot, too.
I support that ban personally also. Anybody else want to come forward and speak? He beat you, John. Good to see you, sir.
Hi, Norm Sales. As we're coming into the election season here, the majority of this council's been here since 2007, which I think, with the exception of Mr. Call, who was just recently elected, 3 years ago? Kind of where we stand right now, we're $130 million in debt, our city is, getting ready to borrow another $57 million. That's for a city of 24,000 people? It's a pretty heavy debt load. Most of it tied to, of course, the levy district. If the economy goes south a little bit, we're going to be in problems. I think 1% of our sales tax goes to Cullinan Properties for the next 20 years. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that. But that's
There's not 20 years remaining, but yes, I believe that was the term of the,
1% within that specific district.
well, the 1% is actually business service district tax, which has to be used for improvements, which basically goes to pay the bonds. But yes, there is an incentive agreement with Cullinan Properties.
Workman's comp cost is out of control. The last 10 years, over $1 million in public works. I don't know how many people they had. They only had one employee that collected more than once. And that employee collected 3 times, and I don't believe he's on the payroll anymore. More troubling, in the police and fire department, $3 million workman's comp settlements with 5 employees collecting between 3 and 5 times. That's a pretty good second income. Before I retired, I had 500 employees in the delivery business. throughout the state of Illinois, and not once was my workman's comp case or workman's comp cost over $50,000. We managed it. We investigated it. We hired investigators to find out, especially the multiple, the double dippers. And many of those didn't receive their settlement because when someone collects workman's comp 3 to 5 times, something's not right. So, also, I know I brought this up before, 2 employees fired for theft, back on our payroll. No one's willing to discuss why. I have a commissioner who has sent me multiple texts and has called me multiple times. One, his text called me angry. I'm not angry. All I want is transparency and open, honest government. I finally had to block this commissioner from receiving the multiple phone calls and the multiple texts. If any of you want to read them, I still have them on my phone. The public is still waiting for an answer. How people that steal from our city are back on our payroll. I'll go back to, I still don't think the current form of government where one commissioner is the head of a department, I tend to call him a dictator of that department, because that person can make a decision regardless what the rest of the council thinks. Doesn't make any difference. He's the only one entitled to make that decision, and I don't think that's right. If I elect a representative either to the state of Illinois or to Washington, D.C., that representative becomes part of a body, and decisions are made by the body. And I think the decision should be made in our city by the body, by the council that we elect, not by one individual person. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, sir, for your comments.
Pardon?
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
John?
Hello, my name's John Harris. Most of you know me. The only reason I'm speaking is because the burn thing came up again. It's come up many, many times over the years. We live in a valley. We live in a town that's mostly woods. You're going to have leaves. Also, we say that our city is broke, which we are, but people want the city to pick up all them leaves. How's the city going to pay for it? Where are they going to take them? I agree with you. We can shut down Thanksgiving, give people a chance. But the other thing we need to do is a neighbor-to-neighbor policy where neighbors care about neighbors. If you got a neighbor that has breathing problems, you check with them. You know, you get together, say, hey, I'm going to burn on this day. Make sure they're okay with that. You know, but we can't just stop burning. What are you going to do with all these leaves? We can't afford the city to pick them up. You know, so I think you guys need to think about that stuff before we ban burning leaves. Thanks.
Other comments? Anybody? Comments from the council? Commissioner Decker?
Yes, Mayor. Rachel Odewald, you all know her. She comes here often, and she speaks about different things. She isn't able to come tonight, but she spoke with me about something a couple weeks ago, something that her son had done. I don't know if it was last year or a couple years prior, but her son's a special kid, and one day I think he noticed somebody that was outside, apparently homeless, and got this feeling of wanting to help. So he, and I can't remember how old he is right now, I think somewhere around 13, if I'm not mistaken.
11.
He's 11? He decided that he wanted to do something, so he started to drive at that time, at that young age, and was able to collect, I believe, 75 coats. Now, this is a young kid going around, talking to people, collecting a lot of coats. I could be wrong about that number, but I believe that was true. I think that's what Rachel told me. And he collected coats, and he decided to give it to, at that time, I believe it was like the rescue mission or something. So she told me about this, and I said, man, that's great. And she told me that he wanted to do it again this year. So I offered to talk about it at the council meeting if he did. And so he is. She is going to try to bring him here next council meeting to speak.
Good.
She's going to put up flyers. She asked, and I haven't spoken with the chief yet, if we put them at the firehouse, and I'm sure he won't mind. But the different places around the city to try to help Liam collect as many coats as he can. A little bit of information about it. If you would like to drop off a coat, a few different places. She's gotten 3 so far. Tina's Coat Stop in Peoria, Castaways in Chillicothe, and here in East Peoria, so far Mel's. She is working on a couple other places to allow people to drop off those coats. It's a great thing. I'm sorry, I have said coats numerous times, and it's blankets. And I was thinking about something else when I said that, but blankets. She is going to collect, or he is going to collect, until December 21st. And at that time, they are going to take them to the rescue mission in the Salvation Army. And I believe that's going to be on the 22nd. It's really great to see a young kid like this. I have 3 kids, and a lot of people speak poorly about our younger generation, but I disagree. I help out quite a bit with this in the schools, and I see nothing but positive things. And this is an example of that. Liam is really doing something special. If you'd like to help, contact me. I mean, I'm easy to get a hold of, and I believe Rachel will be here next week, and she can give her, or next council meeting, give her contact information as well. So I'm looking forward to helping out, and I hope you all will as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Densberger.
Some time back, Ty did a presentation on a proposal for rental registrations. I know that he's sent everyone up here an email asking for input, comments, questions. Please respond to him as quickly as possible, as this is sort of a final draft, although we'd certainly like to respond to concerns and see if we can make it better, because if possible, we would like to bring this forward to consideration. So please take a look through it and get back with Ty with your thoughts.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Jeffers.
Though I don't have a sticker on my jacket here, I did vote today. I was telling Commissioner Call that I was wearing just a regular shirt there today, this morning, to our polling place, and then I meant to transfer it over to my jacket. I didn't get that done, but did vote today. I was at 2 polling places today, and both between 8 and 10 this morning, and it was just very nice to see the turnout. And I talked to some of the poll workers, and they had people lined up waiting for the doors to open up this morning to vote. And so that speaks well for our community, in my view, that people would come out and vote. I know a lot of people vote absentee now, and then they can vote various means of voting ahead. But at these precincts, or the voting places I went, there were people there in wheelchairs coming and having a hard time just walking with their cane and so forth, but they were there to vote. And I know the judges were there to assist them at the tables and so forth, to accommodate them, and it just was very nice to see. I just sort of stood back. I mean, I had nothing in this. As I was there watching and just seeing this happen, I felt really proud to be American, to be an East Peorian, and to see that happen in our community. So hats off there. But just a note, we'll be we'll be past the parade next time we meet as a council. We're coming back on the 20th here for our next council meeting in 2 weeks. But the annual Festival Lights Parade is the 17th. Doug, do you have any words on that? Just get ready to go? I know the volunteers were put out on the city's Facebook page, and we've got volunteers to drive and et cetera.
Great response. Almost too many. Hate to turn people away, but great response with that. So
I know some that called and are driving and et cetera, so that's great news. But the parade is the 17th. The festival, the Felipe runs the 24th, and of course Thanksgiving's there on the 22nd. So we're heading into a great time, a busy time, and the streets will get busier. Restaurants will get fuller, et cetera, shopping and all that, but just enjoy the time. And we'll look forward to the holidays together. Thank you.
And Doug, the projected temperature is going to be what?
46 at parade.
46 at parade time.
I figured it's 4 or 6.
Commissioner Call.
50.
Yeah, just a few things. I like to rattle off the calendar events. First, I'm going to start by Veterans Day is coming up Sunday. Thank you to all the veterans out there. East Peoria will be hosting the Veterans Day Parade. Let me say it again, because most people don't realize we have one. It's one of the longest running ones. And 15, 20 people line up?
Oh, yeah.
So not to shame anybody, but the Veterans Day Parade is November 10th, Saturday, also the Marine Corps birthday. Happy birthday to the Marine Corps. The parade kicks off at 1:30 p.m. We line up behind the Goodwill, and it comes this way, loops back around here by the Holiday Inn, and finishes basically over here. So love
About
to see.
15 minutes at the 20 minutes.
Literally, we've shortened it due to the lack of spectators, if you will. So if anyone's got some time Saturday, come show your appreciation of the veterans that take the time to. Yeah, it's at 1:30 p.m. kicks off. So he mentioned the 34th Annual Festival Lights Parade, 5:45, November 7th. The Queen Pageant is actually Sunday, November 11th at 1:30 p.m. in the Paradise Ballroom. We have 7 contestants signed up to run for Queen this year. Anybody can attend this. Tickets are on sale through, I believe, Friday the 9th. Cost is $10 a person. And this, honestly, they fill up the ballroom. It's really a neat event. I will be volunteering elsewhere that day, but my wife plans on taking our daughter again. November 11th, Sunday. Yep, that's at 1:30 in the Paradise Ballroom. In case anyone didn't notice, our new website rolled out. I know they don't really want to make a big splash about it because they're still working out the bugs, but I encourage you, talk about transparency, please take a look at it. A lot of neat features on there. There's some tweaks that have to be made yet, but I encourage everyone to check that out. Have car seat checks tomorrow, November 7th at Central House between 1 and 4 p.m. Those are free. They do a tremendous job. So if there's any doubt in your mind with your little crumb crunchers, please bring it down there. No questions asked. These guys will take care of you. And last but not least, I want to thank the mayor. Last Saturday, the 6th annual trot was held down here on the riverfront in East Peoria, and there were close to 600 participants this year. So it was a big event, and he helped me kick it off, and I appreciate that.
Really inspiring. I mean, it was an event to remember the inspiration as far as eradicating pancreatic cancer, and
Yep.
people's hearts were in that, you could really tell.
Absolutely. That's all I have, sir.
All right, motion to adjourn, please.
We adjourn until Tuesday evening, November 20th, 2018 at 6 p.m.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call, roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye,
All present voting, aye, Your Honor.
we are adjourned.